Hello and welcome. In this episode of the Cole Memo, I'm going to be doing a high level overview of several stories that have caught my attention. Today is September 10th, 2024, and since I'm doing a high level overview, I will encourage you to check out the full stories so that you can gain a better understanding of what is included in the stories. The first story that I'm going to be covering today is from the Chicago Tribune. The headline is Cannabis Research Institute opens in Chicago, looking to dig deep into marijuana. The article was written by Robert McCoppin. The article starts with nearly a year and a half after it was announced, the Cannabis Research Institute is getting operations underway in Chicago with the goal of studying, among other things, how marijuana could help or harm people. The director of the Cannabis Research Institute, Reggie Guadino, and I apologize if I mispronounce that name, is going to be studying, among other things, whether cannabis can inhibit cancer growth. I also found this part of the article notable. It says, and he will advise on establishing a state reference lab that will check the accuracy of private labs. Studies have found discrepancies between lab reports and actual levels of potency and contaminants, including mold in legal weed. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the Chicago Tribune is referencing here, but I think I may have written about it in one of my most recent stories, which is headlined Illinois State Cannabis Lab Nears Completion. Now, the reason I think that this part is notable because it doesn't exactly mesh with what I recall being told by several representatives of Illinois state government. But again, to keep it high level, I want to encourage you to read both of these stories so that you can get a better understanding. And I'm curious if you come away with that same question. Do you think that this meshes with what some state officials have told me over the years? I'm curious what you think. Please leave your comments below. We're going to move on to the next story, which comes from cannabis industry lawyer Tom Howard, who reports that there are new Illinois dispensary regulations hitting Illinois. They're going to be effective August 20th, 2024. Here are 106 pages of a PDF document that you can comb through. I'll have this linked in the show notes. We're going to play a short video from Tom Howard, which kind of gives a high level overview of what's covered in this. Let's watch the video. And here is the video.
You're still going to keep selling them, maybe because hemp didn't legalize weed. You're legalizing weed when you vote in Florida, or when you voted in Missouri, or when we voted here in Illinois and we created one of the best legal marijuana programs in the country. Let me expand on why I said that. And so we are now going to share the new administrative code. This just came out in Illinois over this past week. They have created a comprehensive regulatory scheme that shuts down all the chicanery that happens in the social equity licensing lottery process. A lot of the predatory practices are now, for all intents and purposes, gone from these new definitions of financial interest to the ability of the license holder to at any time back out of the sale of this license. It's fascinating how they've created these. It's not that I hate hemp.
Okay, so speaking of which, the folks from River Bluff Collective recently reached out. You might remember them because I love their Bluff Punch Pops, one of my favorite products from the plant. Apparently, this month they're running a few different, specials. I'm displaying my screen right now. Sounds like they've got cookie sandwiches, crunch balls, and hard candy. So if you want some of those or some drinks, like I said, they're delicious. You just go to riverbluffcollective.com. It allows you to get these products straight to your door and you support social equity along the way. Of course, you must be 21 years of age or older to enjoy these products. Moving on to our next story, again, today is September 10th, 2024, and I think it's going to be an interesting night in United States politics because I can almost guarantee there's going to be some back and forth on cannabis tonight, considering the statements that have recently been made by former President Donald Trump. Now, obviously, let's acknowledge on the outset, I'm displaying these statements right now. It doesn't even look like, I mean, if I have to imagine, he probably didn't write this, but let's just say he did. What I appreciated most about his endorsement of voting yes on Amendment 3 in Florida, which, by the way, if you don't know, Amendment 3 in Florida would basically create a cannabis regulation and taxation system very similar to what exists in Illinois. So it does not completely legalize cannabis, but he endorsed it, and he preceded that comment by saying it's time to end needless arrests and incarcerations of adults for small amounts of marijuana for personal use. So he says that. Then he says he's going to vote yes on Amendment 3. And it's important to note Amendment 3, actually, credit where credit is due, decriminalizes up to 3 ounces of marijuana. And it's important to put that into context. If Florida legalizes possession of up to 3 ounces, in that context, it will be more progressive than Illinois adult use law. In Illinois, sorry, I can't speak, adults possessing 3 ounces can lead to a misdemeanor, a year in jail, and fines up to $2,500. Now, that's on your first offense. On your subsequent offense, you can get a felony, 1 to 3 years in prison, and fines up to $25,000. Now, again, Florida's legalization bill, if it's actually a constitutional amendment that they're voting on via ballot measure, if it were to become a part of the Constitution, it would not completely legalize cannabis, but I still wanted to give credit where credit is due. I think Chris Goldstein had the best take on this. He recently wrote an op-ed in Marijuana Moment. He said Trump's new opinions are more of a say anything and do nothing style. Now, if you don't know who Chris Goldstein is, he's a cannabis advocate. He actually received, I believe, a pardon or expungement or something like that from President Biden for a federal cannabis offense he had. He was also invited to the Cannabis Roundtable and VP Harris's, Vice President Kamala Harris had a marijuana meeting at the White House, and Marijuana Moment actually wrote about it. I'm displaying it on my screen right now. So if you want to read what happened in that meeting, they wrote about it. I'll have all of these stories that I've mentioned so far linked in the show notes. He recently wrote, like I was just mentioning, an op-ed. This was on September 9th, and he's saying that Kamala Harris holds the trump card on cannabis despite her opponent's latest comments. So I wanted to share those comments and share what I actually liked about him, but I also wanted to give kind of a rounded perspective. So if you want to kind of, see the other side, a lot of people are saying that Trump has embraced cannabis. I say he's suddenly embraced cannabis. And so if you want to see what somebody says, somebody on the opposition side who believes that Kamala holds the trump card, as they say, then you can check out this op-ed. I hope you found value in all that I had to share today. Again, the point was to keep this show short and to the point. The links for everything I displayed in this episode will be shared. And before I go, I just wanted to share a preview for my upcoming mini documentary.
Beginning January 1st, 2020, the recreational use of cannabis will be legal in the state of Illinois.
Available to stream now, my mini doc dives into the history of Illinois legalization, starting with
January 1st. What should we expect? The biggest thing that we need people to understand is that January 1, in terms of the criminal justice system here in this state, is the end of prohibition.
See how Illinois missed its chance at real cannabis reform with key failures, including the fact that
the program includes regulation on possession limits.
So people can still be arrested for a possession.
And I want to highlight that in its first year of legalized recreational marijuana in the state of Illinois, they arrested 3 times as many black people for possession than any other race.
We've run into so much cannabis, we've run out of places to put it.
I've represented people and taken their cases through the court system
who got charged with more serious crimes only because the police said that they smelled cannabis. And not because the police said you have illegal cannabis, or not because you have too much cannabis, or not because you're high on cannabis, but because I can smell it and that's it.
Attorney goes, he understands that he can't be smoking and his cannabis flower shouldn't be open. And I was like, I'd like to say for the record that I was not smoking and my flower was not open.
So that's where we're at right now in Illinois, and I hope it changes.
Start watching now at colememo.com/minidoc.